It's hard to forget the evening President Barack Obama took to the airwaves and announced the death of Osama Bin Laden. While many see it as a bright day for American history, it's hard not to wonder what would have happened if Bin Laden were captured alive. It's been over 13 years since President Obama strode up to a podium in the East Room of the White House on May 2, 2011, and announced that Al-Qaeda terrorist leader Osama Bin Laden was dead.
That the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama Bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda.
Amid other efforts to take down Bin Laden's terrorist network, SEAL Team 6 infiltrated his Abbottabad, Pakistan compound. He died in the ensuing firefight, and his body was dumped in the northern Arabian Sea to avoid his burial site becoming a rallying point for his followers. It stands to reason that Bin Laden would have stood trial if captured alive. However, he ran Al-Qaeda in Sudan from 1991, then Afghanistan from 1996, instigated the 9/11 attack on US soil in 2001, and by 2011 had been living in Pakistan for about 5 years. So there is a question of where Bin Laden would have been tried, under whose laws, and following what process. Well, those answers get complicated pretty quickly. We don't necessarily need to limit ourselves to imagining that Bin Laden might have been captured rather than killed in the 2011 raid alone. Depending on intelligence regarding Bin Laden's activities, he could have been captured at any point following the terrorist attacks of 9/11 all the way to the present, and under a variety of circumstances. In fact, Bin Laden might have been captured even before 9/11 happened. The Washington Post reported that President Bill Clinton approved his capture in 1998 because the CIA knew he was a potential threat. Clinton later amended those plans to include killing him. Out of 5 authorized military operations, at least 1 aimed to capture Bin Laden alive, while 1 aimed to kill him, and 3, quote, might have led to his death. But every plan fell through because those involved delayed taking action, which gave Bin Laden time to change locations. CIA head George Tenet in particular didn't want an international debacle on the US's hands if anything went south. He was particularly concerned if civilians got injured, money got wasted, US actions resulted in regional political instability, or if the operation looked like a straight-up assassination. But if Bin Laden had been captured before 9/11, history would indeed look very different. It stands to reason that Bin Laden would have faced a trial if he'd been captured. However, it's hard to speculate what the proceedings would have looked like thanks to the vagueness of international laws related to combating terrorists, who straddle the line between military and civilian targets. As organizations like the International Center for Counterterrorism say, an international tribunal held in Pakistan, where Bin Laden was captured, might have aligned best with principles of international law and justice. In fact, Pakistan might have been the only choice because the International Criminal Court, or ICC, in The Hague, Netherlands didn't exist until 2002. This means that the World Trade Center attacks of 9/11 couldn't have fallen under the ICC's purview. But just because there wasn't really an ICC, it doesn't mean that there was no method for dealing with international criminals. There is historical precedent for the creation of independent tribunals to deal with complex international situations involving multiple countries where legal jurisdiction is unclear. After World War II, the world saw the creation of the International Military Tribunal for the famed Nuremberg trials. It seems likely that Bin Laden would have had a similar trial to those former Nazis in some way or another, unless it was kept secret in a place like Guantanamo Bay. But regardless, any trial would have resulted in worldwide chaos. If Bin Laden had been captured and put on trial, we can be sure that the proceedings would have taken years, if not decades. After all, the self-proclaimed 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was apprehended way back in 2003, before being held in Guantanamo, charged in 2008, and arraigned in 2011. His trial then took over a decade, only reaching a plea deal in 2024. Notably, all these proceedings happened away from the public eye, involved discussions with family members of 9/11 victims, and were complicated by evidence obtained under torture. What's more, as of August 2024, no sentence has been reached for Mohammed or any of his co-conspirators.
The Pentagon has not released details of the deal publicly, but the trials of the 9/11 conspirators has been delayed for years.
As a result, it's easy to imagine how much more complicated Osama bin Laden's trial would have been. On top of this, Americans likely would have needed a public-facing trial for cathartic purposes. But if the US held a tribunal on American soil and not at far-flung Guantanamo, Pakistan, or anywhere else, it seems all but certain that some member of the public would have tried to assassinate bin Laden no matter how tight a security detail. Just look at JFK assassin Lee Harvey Oswald, who was killed by nightclub owner Jack Ruby before his trial could begin. How many more people would be ranting about bin Laden's trial, even rioting, especially in the age of social media? Social media has become such a prominent part of modern life that we'd be remiss not to talk about how it might interact with a potential Osama bin Laden trial. It's not hard to imagine the same kind of quick-blurted rage that circulates everywhere online nowadays amid such long-awaited proceedings. However, it would be just as easy for social media and the internet to foster the spread of fringe beliefs and conspiracy theories as quickly as ideas like 9/11 being an inside job did after the attack on the World Trade Center. The BBC says that within hours of the attack, folks were scrambling to online forums to blab about how the whole thing was faked, staged, or premeditated by the US government. Most assuredly, pro-Bin Laden forces would be attempting to manipulate public opinions via the various social media platforms to help their cause. That's just the way the world works. Ultimately, it's safe to say that if Bin Laden had stood trial, he would have faced execution for better or worse. There simply is not a world where he would have been tried and left alive if found guilty, and he certainly would never have been found innocent and released. Even back in 1999, Bin Laden was on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list for numerous charges related to US Embassy bombings. By October 2001, he was on their most wanted terrorist list. Following the 9/11 attacks, Cofer Black, former director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, didn't hold back when expressing how he wanted it all to end for the militant leader. As he told BBC, "I want Bin Laden's head shipped back in a box filled with dry ice. I want to be able to show Bin Laden's head to the president." In other words, no scenario exists where Bin Laden would live if put on trial. The whole case might have come across as a prolonged pantomime meant to satiate the demands of the greater international community, not all of whom agree with the decision to kill the terrorist leader. In the meantime, we probably would have had an angry, divided US public splitting hairs over conspiracies and fostering anti-American sentiment online. Operation Neptune Spear, the name of the SEAL 6 raid, was technically a CIA operation. As you well know, the CIA isn't really known for their famous arrests, so it seems the US knew going in the easiest way out of this was to take Bin Laden out, and it did exactly that.